Hey, Des Moines, do you feel uncool in your old car? Does it smell like a dirty gym bag? Does it embarrass you at work? Still making payments on a car you hate? If so, it's time to get back to cool in a nicer, newer car today. Hey, Joe Clemens here from Capital City Motor Company. Summer was finally fun again, but now the kids are getting ready to go back to school. So this month, I'm helping you get back to cool. Bring me your old car, and I'll give you up to $4,000 over appraised value. Worried about that credit history pop quiz? No need to cram for this exam. My one and only For the People credit approval process is easier than math class. I've already solved for X. Me plus your old car equals a nicer, newer car. Get up to $4,000 more than your trade's worth. Don't miss this bus, because you deserve a car that's too cool for school. But hurry, class is out August 31st, so don't be tardy. I'm Joe Clemens, and I'm your dealer for the people. Come see us at Capital City Motor Company on East University, one block off I-235 on the State Fair side. Call 265-1467 or online at approvedbyjoe.com. Approvedbyjoe.com. www.approvedbyjoe.com.
Purchase price affects actual trade allowance. Negative equity may be refinanced. All terms subject to approval.
We're in this together, and we will get through this together. The vaccines are tested effective and needed.
Welcome to the clinic. Which arm?
Get your COVID-19 vaccine so we can do this. And this. And this.
We are now boarding flight.
Together again, because we got through it together. This message sponsored by the Helmsley Charitable Trust, aired with the Iowa Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hey, Abby?
Yes, Grant?
The dad bod is still a thing, right?
I never know what you're going to want to talk about.
I was just looking in the mirror and
Sure, sweetie. It's a dad bod, but you look great.
Well, that's nice of you to say, but since spring, I've been so excited to be able to do things again that I put getting into shape way on the back burner, and I feel like that time is flying by right now.
Let's get back on track at the YMCA of Greater Des Moines. We'll look great, feel great, and maybe we'll inspire our kids enough to put down the tablets for a while and want to do it with us.
Gonna turn this dad bod into a fab bod.
Honey, that's definitely not a thing, but getting back to the Y and feeling like ourselves is for sure.
show. His name is Wickett. So without further ado, I bring to you Wickett. Let's get down to business. I don't got no time to play around. What is this?
This is Wickett's World with Mike Wickett.
From the Bally Bet Sportsbook app studio. Get social features, casino rewards, and exclusive games in one betting app.
On a Friday with actual football on the horizon. Pretty excited about this weekend, even if it is kind of fake football. It is college preseason football. We good to go over there, Pete? All right, cool. Everything okay over there?
This is going great so far.
This is
great.
See, our producer, Pete, is going back to school at Mizzou.
Mm-hmm.
When do you leave to go back to school?
Monday.
So this is it. This is your swan song.
This is it.
This is how you want to go out?
This is how we have to go out.
This is how we have to go out, stumbling and fumbling out of the gate.
Yes.
Well, fantastic. We will talk more about your budding radio career before we get out of here in a little bit. But we have actual football this weekend. Okay, we have sort of have football this weekend. We have preseason football. We have been talking about every week the last 5 or 6 weeks we get into one of the big five here in Des Moines, whether it's the Packers, the Cowboys, the Bears. There are a lot of Vikings fans around here, and, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I wanted to get somebody on to talk more Chiefs football as camp is open, as Patrick Mahomes is doing Mahomes things down in Kansas City. Ron Kopp is my guest from arrowheadpride.com. Ron, thank you so much for the time, my friend. Appreciate it. You get somebody on like yourself on a radio program like this, and you're like, all right, we got to start dissecting. At the Bears, it's like Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, the Kirk Cousins stuff up in Minnesota. When it comes to Kansas City, what's the concern going into camp? Like, what are you guys focusing on at all going into camp?
Well, the big thing for sure is we all know the offensive line was not up to par in the Super Bowl and last year towards the end of the year as well with all the injuries. And it's been really exciting to kind of get all these new faces and get all these rookies getting on the starting offensive line. The Chiefs right now, they're on plan to start 3 rookies preseason week 1 at least. Center Creed Humphrey, the 2nd-round pick, Trey Smith, the 6th-round pick at right guard, and Lucas Niang, who opted out last year, didn't play last year due to COVID, but was a rookie last year. So, yeah, that's 3 new guys, and that's kind of exciting along with the trade for Orlando Brown Jr. and signing Joe Thuney. It's just cool to see a whole new group of offensive line. Last year, training camp, or the training camp we had with COVID, there was not a lot of new faces. It was the running back tour, and this year there's a lot, more new guys in here and big guys, big names. So it is exciting in that sense to kind of see how the offensive line gets going, gets figured up with the new guys in this year.
Camp's been open for like 10 days. Have you noticed this offensive line of all these different pieces gelling?
Yeah, so I think that they definitely have been. But the one thing is they're going against a pretty loaded defensive line right now. The Chiefs have a lot of good players on the D-line. They added Jaron Reed from Seattle over the offseason, who's definitely looked the part in training camp so far. He's been a stud. Chris Jones moving out to defensive end, the longtime defensive tackle. And he's still, man, there's not a lot of defensive ends in the NFL that are going to be his size. And those offensive tackles, Orlando Brown and the rookie Lucas Niang, like I mentioned, going against him every snap, man, that's going to be a challenge, and that's really going to get you going iron sharpen iron, as they like to say at the Chiefs. So, yeah, they are definitely gelling as well as you can because they're going against a really good defensive line, and they're getting as challenged as you'd imagine in training camp.
Talking to Ron Kopp. You can read his work at arrowheadpride.com here on 1350 ESPN in Des Moines. Talking Chiefs, they've got the Niners tomorrow in preseason game number 1. You mentioned a running back, and I do want to bring up Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who came out of the year last year like gangbusters in that opening night game, and then kind of had a very mixed bag. Where is he at in his second camp, and how much expectation really is there for a running back in Andy Reid's system?
Yeah, there's high expectations, right? We've seen big things from running backs, whether it's Kareem Hunt here or Brandon Westbrook back in Philly or even Jamal Charles before Mahomes got here. So there's big expectations, and I do think one thing, and he's admitted it, Clyde, as well, is last offseason was just so weird for all the rookies, and they didn't get on-field stuff until training camp. And even then, there's only so much you can do. I don't think they got him into the passing game as much as they would have liked to as a rookie. If they had that full offseason, maybe we would have seen more unique plays in terms of him lining up as a slot receiver or him just being run out on routes, longer routes than just the dump-offs that a usual running back gets. So I think that's what you're going to see this year. I think Clyde's going to get a lot more opportunity in the passing game. But then also, as we were talking about the offensive line, just that being improved will help him. More lanes will be open for him in the running game. I think he's on set for a really big year. I think he's going to be a really productive running back this year.
So should I take him high in my fantasy draft? Is that what you're saying?
I would recommend so, yeah. I know last year I think he was taken pretty high, and most people probably weren't happy with that. But I think now you're going to get him at a really good value because I think he's slept on a little bit now. So, yeah, I'd recommend it. You can put it on me if he doesn't do well.
Oh, fantastic. Hit up those message boards, arrowheadpride.com, and slam Ron if you draft CEH and he doesn't have a good year. I can ask, and again, this goes back to, and I'm sure you get this all the time, and, how good is Mahomes and the weapons and the offense? I guess my question about the offense with Tyreek Hill and Mahomes and Kelsey and CEH, can this offense get much better?
So that is a good question, right? Because we've seen 2018, the ceiling of it, that happened with Mahomes' first year. That happened a lot of the reason because the defense was so bad, and they kind of had to be that way. They had to put up all these points. And I do think the defense is solidified to a point under Spags where they don't need to have all these firework plays. So in terms of stats and productiveness, I don't think they can be much better than maybe they were in the 2018 season. But I think just in terms of the efficiency of the offense and getting big plays and chunk plays in efficient manners and not going 3 and out and being able to run the ball, I think in that sense, the offense could be a lot better. I think the offensive line's improvement will help receivers like the reserve receivers like DeMarcus Robinson or a Byron Pringle and McCole Hardman all get open better. They've all kind of struggled in their careers to be guys that can separate themselves. But when you have better pass protection, Mahomes can sit back there a little longer. Those guys will get open too. So that eliminates the need for a big-time talent like Samuel Watkins at wide receiver too. So I do think the efficiency of the offense could be better, can be better, and will be better potentially this year. But in terms of stats, in terms of putting up the points like they did in 2018, I just don't think the defense will be bad enough for them to have to do that.
Ron Kopp joining us from arrowheadpride.com, talking Chiefs. He's their lead analyst over there. You can follow him on Twitter at Ron_Kopp. That's Kopp. I'm Mike Wickett here on 1350 ESPN. Who's the third best pass catcher that the Chiefs have?
Well, it's a debate between two people. And we're all hoping it's McCole Hardman this year as Chiefs fans. You want to see him take that leap as a third-year receiver, go into this year and really, go from just being a guy that's set up to make big plays, only really makes big plays when Andy Reid sets him up to do it, and actually make the big plays himself, separate on a route and beat a corner one-on-one. But the other guy, and we've already talked about him, Edward Solera, I think he could all of a sudden be that third target in terms of how many targets he gets throughout the season. He could be the third in line behind Kelsey and Hill, and the screen game, and like I mentioned earlier, just different, just longer routes, more intermediate routes. We didn't see as much, like wheel routes out of the backfield going up the sideline. We've seen that with Andy in the past, but just not as much with Edward Solera last year. So I think Edward Solera has a chance to maybe get the third most targets on the team, but I could definitely see Hardman challenging him for that. And also I think Hardman would get the third most yards just because I think a lot of his catches will be bigger plays, just, gain more yards and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, I'd say between those two, hopefully it's Hardman, though.
I was working in Kansas City a couple of years ago, and I remember the Fire Bob Sutton campaigns that were going on, and everybody wanted him gone, and Andy Reid made the switch and brought in Spagnuolo. And the defense actually for the first 6 games of Spag's first season 2 years ago was statistically worse than some of those under defensive coordinator Bob Sutton. But then, about a season and a half ago, everything started to change. Whether that had to be the acquisition of Tyrann Mathieu or Frank Clark or whatever, what has been the biggest difference in Spag's defense from the Bob Sutton defense that plagued Kansas City Chiefs fans for so long?
Well, yeah, and Chiefs fans will know this when I say it. I think the big thing is really just adjustments, just the defensive staff being able to adjust to the offense and not just run what they want to run. I think that was a big problem with Sutton is, whatever you were running on offense, he was just going to run his man-to-man on the outside. Not a lot of changes with what personnel's in there. Spags will throw a lot of different stuff at you. He'll have players in different positions. he'll mix around the defensive line a lot to where we see guys like Chris Jones play both on the inside, the outside, and vice versa, and other players too. And even in the secondary too, having a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, move around all over the place. And hey, Sutton didn't really have a Tyrann Mathieu at the end of that run. He had an Eric Berry towards the beginning of it, but obviously towards the end he didn't have that kind of guy. So you could say that Spags has gotten a little more talent maybe since they've overhauled it pretty good for Spagnuolo, and the talent on the defense has definitely been playing well. But I just think Spagnuolo just overall is just such a better defensive strategizer and being able to take away opposing offenses. Brady has always said that he doesn't have a good time playing Spagnuolo, that kind of thing. I think Spags has just always been a better strategizer than Sutton. That's where it comes down to.
Ron, this game coming up tomorrow against San Francisco, I mean, it's a preseason game. You can't take a ton out of it, but who are some surprise guys that are on the hot seat right now that may lose their job when we get to cutdown day in a few weeks?
Yeah, so I think one guy in Chiefs Kingdom that we've all kind of been looking at because of who we drafted in recent years, but Ben Neiman has played a big role in this team. He's been the linebacker in dime defenses, which means there's only one linebacker on the field, and it's more of a pass coverage situation. He's been that main guy, but the last two drafts, the Chiefs have drafted a linebacker in each draft in the second round, Willie Gay Jr. and Nick Bolton. And at some point, they need to start getting more reps and snaps. And there's only so many linebackers that play in today's NFL. There's not a lot of 3 linebacker sets anymore. It's a lot of 2 linebacker and 1 linebacker. So you want to get those guys on the field, plus Anthony Hitchens. I think that kind of leaves Neiman as the odd man out. And those young linebackers that I mentioned have made a lot of plays in training camp so far. They have stood out, especially Willie Gay. He's made a lot of plays in coverage. And I just think that's you need their athleticism, their superior athleticism on the field. Neiman has been a solid guy, but there's a lot of holes in his game, and the dime defense has really had some trouble in the past few years because of some of his play. So I think he's someone on the hot seat, and these young linebackers could push him to be either down the depth chart or maybe even off the team.
I don't even know why I'm asking this, but how's Mahomes looked? Why do I even bother with a question like that?
It is funny, though, because there was a little period, I think last week now, I think it was early last week, that Chiefs fans, or maybe not Chiefs fans, but just Twitter fans and NFL fans that heard that Mahomes had 3 picks in one practice. And I was actually at the practice. And, yeah, there was one bad throw. There was another miscommunication with the receiver. And, it happens. But, that's the thing with Mahomes, man. He's just trying stuff out. He's just trying to feel it out. And they've made plenty of big plays in camp. I think Tyreek Hill's been the star of camp. He's just been all over the place. Him and Mahomes have been dynamite together. And yeah, Mahomes looks great. I'm just excited to see it in the regular season. It's not as fun to talk about his training camp reps as it is his big plays in the regular season.
Who would win that 70-yard race if we took a 70 between Usain Bolt and Tyreek Hill? Who would win? Not the 100, because I think we know Usain would win that, and Tyreek's quick out of the gate for a 40. But who do you think wins a 70-yard race between Usain Bolt and the Cheetah?
Yeah, I'm glad they found that little center point right between 140. That was kind of cool. Dan Patrick made that up.
Yeah.
I think I want to say
take
Tyreek,
off
but
your red and white glasses for a moment
Yeah.
here, Ron.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I got to be realistic. I think Usain in 70 yards, those long legs and all of that, he'll pick it up by then and he'll dust. I think he'll get Tyreek. Tyreek, like you said, so quick, so explosive off the ball. Maybe could have get him in the 40 yards, but 70 yards, that's too long. I think Usain would get him.
Hey, Ron, thank you so much for the time, man. I appreciate it. Arrowheadpride.com. Read Ron's work and the rest of the staff over there. They are hardworking guys. They are one of, if not the best Chiefs website out there, arrowheadpride.com. And follow Ron on Twitter at Ron_Kopp. That's Kopp. Ron, we'll do it again down the road.
All right, appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Ron Kopp. Again, arrowheadpride.com and on Twitter at Ron_Kopp. Why do I even ask? How's Mahomes look? Like it matters. Like all of a sudden Andy Reid's going to be like, oh, well, Mahomes threw a couple of picks in training camp back on August 14th.
Matt Moore might be the guy now.
Time for Chad Henne. Let's go. Is Henne the backup? Do we know is Henne the backup? Matt Moore's gone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Henne's the guy. Henne's the one that they let Henne throw that 4th and 1 pass against Cleveland in the playoffs last year, which was ballsy as hell to go ahead and do, and he completed it on a dime. And then Mahomes came back, and then they wound up in the Super Bowl. And, of course, as you know, we started there with Ron. The whole offseason, you look at a team addressing its needs. The Kansas City Chiefs did a better job addressing their needs than any team in the National Football League by adding all of the offensive line pieces that they did. I mean, boom, that was their only weakness, which was exposed by Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. I mean, if I had to bet your paycheck, Pete, if I had to bet your check on something on a team to win the Super Bowl, as much as I want to wave my Green Bay Packers flag in the air, I would probably at this point put it on Mahomes. How do you not?
Tom Brady. Every single of those Chargers is coming back.
I know.
Every single one.
I know. I have 2 rules in sports. Have I told you my 2 rules in sports?
I don't think so.
All right, I'll tell you my 2 rules in sports. 1, never bet on Gonzaga. Doesn't
That's
matter
true.
if they're 31-0 or they're 30-2. They're the number 1 seed. Their Ken Pom rating is off the chart. Never put your money on Gonzaga to win the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're always going to let you down. If you put Gonzaga in the SEC or the Big 10 or the Big 12 or whatever, they lose 9 times a year.
Yeah.
The other thing is never bet against Tom Brady.
Yep.
And what happened last year? Gonzaga lost and Brady won. It's just a certainty. If Brady gets to a title game, bet on him. More times than not, he's going to win you money. And if Gonzaga's in the title more times than not, meaning all of the times, they're not going to win you any money in your little bracket.
Even if they go 30-0,
doesn't matter.
Going into it, they just...
Man, did you see what they did out in the Mountain Big West Sky Conference or whatever? Yeah, I did. They beat Iowa once. Okay, great, big deal. You know, they took care of Texas A&M in Maui. Okay, that's great. See what if they can get 6 wins in a row in March. They can't. They never do. They got close, and I think they're preseason number 1. They had a top 5 recruiting class.
Yeah, they got Chet Holmgren.
What does that mean to me?
He's the number 1 player
in the country.
Well, in that class.
Oh, where's he from? Spokane.
He's from where Anthony Edwards is from, Minnesota. I forgot the name.
Minneapolis, somewhere in Minneapolis.
I think it's somewhere in Minneapolis. I don't know the specific name right now.
It's Pete's send-off show. You're not. You got to stay sharp on your final show.
I know.
Pete's going back to Mizzou starting next week, so we send him off. We're going to find out what Pete's aspirations are for his radio career. Also, Field of Dreams night last night coming up next. Got to hear Kevin Costner, the amazing scene that it was. We'll do that on the other side here on 1350 ESPN.
This is Wickett's World on 1350